The Chargers just signed Alex Leatherwood, who was the first round pick for the Raiders in 2021. So now, just 3 years later, he is on the Chargers. Now, obviously, his career has not panned out the way that he had hoped thus far, but he is going to try and have a late career resurgence with the Chargers, and he has shown some really good ability in college. So let me give you the full breakdown on Alex Leatherwood. Alex Leatherwood was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school in Florida and committed to Alabama over some other schools like Michigan with Jim Harbaugh, but his true freshman year, he was able to get some playing time in Alabama, but then in the championship game, he was able to get some real good playing time because against Georgia, he played 45 snaps at left tackle after an injury to Jonah Williams, and Alabama went on to win that game. That was the game that Tua Tagovailoa was the quarterback as well, and he only allowed 4 pressures on all of those 45 snaps. As a true freshman, by the way, at Alabama, at the highest stage in college football, the national championship. That is a big accomplishment. And remember, this guy was like 18 years old going up against some grown men in college football in the freaking Super Bowl of college football. But anyway, his sophomore season, he was moved from left tackle to the right guard spot. And then that year, he only allowed 2 sacks. Then in 2019 and 2020, which were his final 2 seasons of college football, he moved back to that left side and back to the tackle spot, so he was a left tackle again. So he has that positional versatility to not only play as a tackle, but he can also play on either side of that line, and that is one thing that the Chargers value very highly. As we all know, and as Jim Harbaugh has been saying a lot, and Joe Hortiz has been saying a lot as well, that positional versatility, it's extremely valuable to them. And Alex Leatherwood has shown the ability to play both tackle spots, both guard spots as well. And he got better every single year at Alabama. And he's got a lot of traits that are hard to find in the NFL at that offensive line position. Alex Leatherwood is 6'5" and 312 pounds. So he has good size for the position, but not elite size, like Joe Alt or Mekhi Becton does. But he makes up for that potential lack of ideal size at tackle with some really absurd athleticism. I mean, just look at his RAS score and you will see why he was a first-round pick. He's got elite explosiveness, he's got great speed, he's got great agility, and his arm length, look right there at the very top, 34 inches. That is a really good length, and he has the prototype size, length, and elite athleticism at the tackle spot and also at the guard spot at the next level. So now let's get into his strengths and his weaknesses on the field. He's a quick player and he gets out of his stance very suddenly, so that elite explosiveness and the speed and the agility, that translates on the tape. He also has really quick feet as well, and that projects him to be good in a gap running scheme, which is exactly what Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh are going to be running a lot of. And then when you get into his pass protection, his pass set, he gets depth pretty quickly and he can anchor well against the bull rush. But his problems in the pass protection, it's his hands really, because he's not a very technical player. He doesn't have like very strong hands like you would expect a big guy like that with really good athleticism to have. But then also his hand placement is really bad at times, especially when he got into the NFL. He was really just not a technical player at all, and that is why his career has not panned out thus far. He does have very good length to reach out for those edge rushers when they try to beat him with speed to the outside, but oftentimes he just like opens up too much and then he overcommits to that rusher, which is going to leave a huge hole for that offensive line for another defender to come in and get their hands on the quarterback. So that's his pass protection. He has issues, but he has the tools to correct them. Now let's talk about him in the run game, because that is where the Chargers are more concerned with, I'm sure. He's actually not as good as you would think he'd be for a guy his size and a guy who went to Alabama, and with the athletic tools that he has, I mean, he's not a mean and nasty run blocker like you would expect from an Alabama offensive lineman like J.C. Latham, who we just saw this past season, and a guy like Chargers fans know, DJ Fluker. He's not really like that at all. He's much more of a finesse blocker. He does get to the second level really fluidly and quickly. That is one thing he does really well. He moves in space very, very nicely, but he doesn't have that mean streak that you want. And when you watch him, you just like you want him to be so much more physical and use more of his natural ability because he has it. And I wonder if he has an Underdog account, but if you don't, you can click on my link in the description and use my code McLean on your sign up. That is MACLANE. You will get a special pick'em and a first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. It helps me out so much. And one thing that Alex Leatherwood needs help with is he needs those coaches. I think there are a lot of things that he can learn from good coaching, a lot of the fundamental stuff that Jim Harbaugh and Mike Devlin can teach him. And that's why he was a free agent at this point in the season, is because he just is so raw, but he has all the tools. He just needs to be coached. And I think for that reason, this is a good signing for depth, at least at a position that we still need guys at. And you can argue that we need the most competition at the offensive line spot because of how important it is with Jim Harbaugh as the head coach. I mean, he values that position higher than any other position on this team, or really just in football. But also because we have Justin Herbert and we need to protect him both by establishing the run to take pressure off of him, but also by protecting him in the pass game and not allowing any hits on our quarterback. It's going to be interesting to see how he slides into this depth chart because he does still have a bunch of upside, in my opinion. He's only 25 years old, guys. And like I said, he has all of the tools that you want, not only as a guard, but as a tackle as well. Are the Chargers going to play him at tackle or are they going to play him at guard? I don't know the answer to that, but just kind of going off of what Jim Harbaugh said previously, I would expect him to compete seriously at both spots because Jim Harbaugh has said that he loves tackles, and if they could all be tackles along that offensive line, then he would play with 5 tackles. Alex Leatherwood was a left tackle in college, and then he also played right tackle in the NFL for the Raiders before moving inside to right guard. And then I think with the Bears, he was also right guard for most of the time there, especially in the preseason. But he looks more like a tackle than a guard because guards are typically more horizontally large than vertically large, if you know what I mean. And he actually stacks up pretty well to Trey Pipkins in terms of like the athletic traits, but also the play style too. Like Trey Pipkins, he's not an extremely physical player and he's not like a mauler in the run game, but he does have quick feet and he can get out in space much better than most offensive linemen because of his physical and natural athleticism. Alex Leatherwood is basically that. If Alex Leatherwood can come in and impress the coaches enough to earn a roster job in just his first year, then he may be able to take Trey Pipkins' job, because I'm telling you guys that I think this is Trey's final year on the Chargers because of that pay bump that he is set to get after this year. And they have an out on his contract. Trey Pipkins is the second highest paid player on offense right now. And if you can get, 70% of what Trey Pipkins is out of Alex Leatherwood for only like 20% of the cost, is that a move that you would be willing to make? Because I feel like I would. The writing is all on the wall right now of Joe Hortiz setting this offensive lineup to be elite and replace guys that are average while giving guys that have the tools and traits to succeed a shot on this roster. And that is exactly what is happening right now. Alex Leatherwood is young and hungry to prove himself in the NFL, and he has the potential, man, to be a solid starter in this league. I think he could absolutely impress in training camp and earn a job, and maybe even earn a starting spot on this team once Trey Pipkins gets cut next year, I just think it makes too much sense, man. They drafted Joe Alt in the first round this year, and now they go out and sign Alex Leatherwood, who is the exact kind of player that Trey Pipkins is, for much cheaper. I think they are banking on developing him. He's going to be like their project kind of guy so that they can move away from Trey Pipkins when that time comes, and it's going to have much less of an impact on this offensive line. So this is a very smart move by Joe Hortiz, and even though Alex Leatherwood was drafted by the Raiders, I will still root for him, and I want him to succeed with Jim Harbaugh. And if you did not see my video yesterday, I made an entire video about my favorite defensive sleeper, Junior Colson.